Uh, Apologize for the late start, as well as the sore throat and all the other anomalies or differences that today has provided for this God Hour session, God Hour live session. Here in Alabama, it got very cold last night, and I expect it's going to get even colder tonight. And I also got up later than usual, because I stayed up later than usual. But it is what it is. Stayed up to watch a very fascinating movie called The Imitation Game, which is based on a true story. Of course, it is Hollywooded up. But it's the story of a man named Alan Turing, and if you're somewhat or vaguely familiar with the history of computer science, you will know that name very well. In any case, our subject matter today, if you will, is continuing the book of John. But our verse of the day came from the book of Mark, chapter 8, verse 35. For whosoever will save his life shall lose it, but whosoever shall lose his life for my sake, i.e. Jesus, and the Gospels, the same shall save it. So whosoever shall lose his life for my sake, for Jesus' sake, the same losing of your life for Jesus shall save it. Now, there's a couple ways to interpret that. By accepting Jesus, you inherently give away your life. You lose your life. But you're reborn. You become a new life. So by losing your life, you gain even more life. In fact, an eternal life. Good morning, y'all. Pardon me for possibly getting sick. Got pretty cold last night. That's why the camera angle is different today. I'm more geared toward this space heater. But we're talking about martyrdom, and the Gospel of John is a perfect example of a martyr. Not only Christ, but John himself, who was cruelly beheaded and such. And I don't want to spoil it if you don't know the story of John the Baptist, but if you've been following, and where were we at? John chapter 5 or 6? 6. There's a module or caption called The Second Passover, and I'm reading from the King James Version, as is my wont. Good morning, Claire Bear. So I'm kind of liking this format we've adapted of reading a chapter, discussing a topic or two, or whatever comes to mind, not from me, but from everybody else, and including me, I guess, just whatever we decide to discuss. But let's first of all address the Bible. Verse 1, John 6. After these things, Jesus went over the Sea of Galilee, which is the Sea of Tiberias. And a great multitude followed him because they saw his miracles which he did on them that were diseased. And we talked about those miracles, of course, in the previous 5 chapters. Hello, Hapacorn 808. Have I lived in 808 yet? I've been everywhere, man. And Jesus went up into a mountain, and there he sat with his disciples, and the Passover, a feast of the Jews, was nigh. This module is called the Bread of Life. When Jesus then lifted up his eyes and saw a great company coming to him, he saith unto Philip, and remember where we talked about, we introduced Philip earlier in the book. He saith unto Philip, whence shall we buy bread that these may eat? And this he said to prove him, for he himself knew what he would do. Philip answered him, 200 pennyworth of bread is not sufficient for them, that every one of them may take a little. One of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, saith unto him, there is a lad here which hath 5 barley loaves and 2 small fishes. But what are they among so many? How are we going to feed this many people with 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish? To put it into more modern English. Excuse me. And Jesus said, make the men sit down. Now there was much grass in the place, so the men sat down in number about 5,000. And Jesus took the loaves, and when he had given thanks, he distributed to the disciples, and the disciples to them that were set down, and likewise of the fishes as much as they would. When they were filled, he said unto his disciples, gather up the fragments that remain, that nothing be lost. The point, or if you miss the implication, is that not only did he feed 5,000, about 5,000, but there were leftovers as well. And I realize that if you have a rational, logic-based mind, if you're not going on faith, that you can't come to terms with that. You have to take that on faith. You simply just can't satiate, completely fill 5,000-ish people with 2 fish, unless they're really, really enormous fish. I could tangent into, I bet every country guy around here says he's caught a fish that big, but those are just fish tails. Verse 13, therefore they gathered them together. Pardon me, I am getting sick apparently. Therefore they gathered them together and filled 12 baskets with the fragments of the 5 barley loaves, which remained over and above unto them that had eaten. Then those men, when they had seen the miracle that Jesus did, said, this is of a truth that prophet that should come into the world. Because this prophet, this coming of Jesus had long been in the waiting. So these people are firmly and truly, validly convinced, because they're witnessing it firsthand. When Jesus, we're continuing on verse 15, When Jesus therefore perceived that they would come and take him by force to make him a king, he departed again into a mountain by himself, or himself alone, to read exactly verbatim. Verse 16, and when even was now come, his disciples went down into the sea, and entered into a ship, and went over the sea toward Capernaum. And it was now dark, and Jesus was not come to them. And the sea arose by reason of a great wind that blew. So when they had rowed about 25 or 30 furlongs, they see Jesus walking on the sea, and drawing nigh unto the ship, and they were afraid. But he saith unto them, It is I, be not afraid. Then they willingly received him into the ship, and immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. Now, I don't think they mean they teleported the ship to where they were going by immediately the ship was at the land whither they went. Verse 22, I'm going to get through the chapter, and then we're going to discuss a little bit about some other topics, particularly martyrdom. Forgive my sore throat. The day following, when the people which stood on the other side of the sea saw that there was none other boat there, save that one whereinto his disciples were entered, and that Jesus went not with his disciples into the boat, but that his disciples were gone away alone. Howbeit there came other boats from Tiberias nigh unto the place where they did eat bread, after that the Lord had given thanks. And that verse is in parentheses, ending with a colon. And I am a so-called grammar Nazi. And I hate that AI is going to pick up that I am a blank Nazi. I'm not a Nazi. I'm just I appreciate proper grammar. Verse 24, when the people therefore saw that Jesus was not there, neither his disciples, they also took shipping and came to Capernaum seeking for Jesus. Now, if I may digress a little bit, Jesus was a rock star at this point. I mean, he had, groupies following him around everywhere he went. Not just to exploit his ability to heal the infirm. I'm sorry, y'all. If I'd had any common sense, I would have just put this so-called ashtray where I could reach it easily. But common sense is a very rare thing. That may be my own original quote, but be that as it may or may not. Continuing on, verse 25. And when they had found him on the other side of the sea, they said unto him, Rabbi, when camest thou hither? Jesus answered them and said, Verily, verily, I say unto you, which, if by this point you'll be very aware that is almost always how Jesus begins to start a paragraph or phrasing. Verily, verily, I say unto you, ye seek me, not because ye saw the miracles, but because ye did eat of the loaves, and were filled. Labor not for the meat which perisheth, but for that meat which endureth unto everlasting life, which the Son of Man shall give unto you, for him hath God the Father sealed. Then said they unto him, What shall we do that we might work the works of God? And Jesus answered and said unto them, This is the work of God, that ye believe on him whom he hath sent. that's your starting point of working for God is believing whom he has sent, Jesus. Verse 30, they said therefore unto him, what sign shewest thou then, that we may see and believe thee? What dost thou work? Our fathers did eat manna in the desert, as it is written, he, God, gave them bread from heaven to eat. Then Jesus said unto them, verily, verily, I say unto you, Moses gave you not that bread from heaven, but my Father giveth you the true bread from heaven. So maybe they thought that Moses had done it. Maybe some believed that, but weren't quite aware. It was ancient history at this point, and Christianity wasn't the thing yet. Christ had just now come into his mortal form, and we're not referring to him as Jesus Christ, which, to be redundant if you followed any of the other installments, but Christ is Jesus' title, if you will. Verse 33, continuing, pardon me for interrupting Jesus, but continuing what Jesus is saying. For the bread of God is he which cometh down from heaven and giveth life unto the world. Then said they unto him, Lord, evermore give us this bread. And Jesus said unto them, it's a long one, give myself a good breath. I am the bread of life. He that cometh to me shall never hunger, and he that believeth on me shall never thirst. But I said unto you, that ye also have seen me, and believe not. All that the Father giveth me shall come to me, and him that cometh to me I will in no wise cast out. It's a wonderful sentiment. It's great that you can be accepted. What I'm interpreting is that all are welcome to the salvation that Jesus offers if they come to him. And if they do, he will in no wise, in no way, form, or fashion cast out. Verse 38, for I came down from heaven not to do mine own will, but the will of him that sent me. And this is the Father's will which hath sent me, that of all which he hath given me I should lose nothing, but should raise it up again at the last day. And this is the will of him that sent me, that every one which seeth the Son and believeth on him may have everlasting life, and I will raise him up at the last day. This is a pretty long chapter, granted, but we're going to push on through verse 41. And let me stop to say, I know hearing the King James Version being read verbatim can sound dry and can be boring. Believe me, as a kid, I fell asleep in church so many times, not because I wanted to, but just because the redundancy, repetitiveness, the language that was tricky to understand. But anyway, verse 41. The Jews then murmured at him because he said, I am the bread which came down from heaven. And they said, is not this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How is it then that he saith, I came down from heaven? Fair question, I suppose. Jesus therefore answered and said unto them, Murmur not among yourselves. No man can come to me except the Father which hath sent me draw him, and I will raise him up at the last day. It is written in the prophets, and they shall be all taught of God. Every man therefore that hath heard and hath learned of the Father cometh unto me. Not that any man hath seen the Father, save he which is of God, he hath seen the Father. Verily, verily, I say unto you, he that believeth on me hath everlasting life. I am that bread of life. Your fathers did eat manna in the wilderness, and are dead. This is the bread which cometh down from heaven, that a man may eat thereof and not die. I am the living bread which came down from heaven. If any man eat of this bread, he shall live forever. And the bread that I will give is my flesh, which I will give for the life of the world. Now, this is kind of personal between him and his disciples. He's not preaching this to the masses. I dare say if he were doing that, he would probably be executed immediately, the way the Jews were saying this. Okay, I might be misinterpreting some of this. Maybe he is saying this to that multitude. I don't know how many he's actually talking to. But let's push on through. Verse 52, the Jews therefore strove among themselves, saying, How can this man give us his flesh to eat? Then Jesus said unto them, Verily, verily, I say unto you, except ye eat the flesh of the Son of Man, and drink his blood, ye have no life in you. Whoso eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood hath eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is meat indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He that eateth my flesh and drinketh my blood dwelleth in me, and I in him. As the living Father hath sent me, and I live by the Father, so he that eateth me, even he shall live by me. This is that bread which came down from heaven. Not as your fathers did eat manna and are dead. He that eateth of this bread shall live forever. These things said he in the synagogue as he taught in Capernaum. Okay, that answers my little side question. But we're still pushing through. This is a very long chapter. Verse 60. Many therefore of his disciples, when they had heard this, said, This is an hard saying. Who can hear it? Who can hear it and trust it, I guess. When Jesus knew in himself that his disciples murmured at it, he said unto them, Doth this offend you? What, and if ye shall see the Son of Man ascend up where he was before? It is the Spirit that quickeneth, the flesh profiteth nothing. The words that I speak unto you, they are spirit and they are life. But there are some of you that believe not. For Jesus knew from the beginning who they were that believed not and who should betray him. And he said, Therefore said I unto you, that no man can come unto me except it were given unto him of my Father. From that time many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. Then said Jesus unto the 12, Will ye also go away? Then Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? Thou hast the words of eternal life, and we believe and are sure that thou art that Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus answered them, Have not I chosen you 12, and one of you is a devil? He spoke of Judas Iscariot, the son of Simon, for he it was that should betray him, being one of the 12. So, there's a lot to unpack there. It took 25 minutes just to read through that chapter. Of course, there's a lot of me jibber-jabbering and running my mouth about stuff that I really shouldn't have been, or was of little importance. But 71 verses. And pardon me, my throat is killing me. But this is important. As Jesus made disciples, we as disciples are also instructed to make disciples. But there is much more here to unpack than the time I have available to me will allow. So let me, rather than analyze all of this content, by which I mean John chapter 6, content not in the YouTube or social media or whatever sense, but the contents of the Bible. Let me talk about martyrdom a little bit, because John the Baptist, spoiler alert, I already mentioned this, so I guess it's re-spoiler, was beheaded. I don't think that Herod wanted him beheaded, but at this time, which is like 2,000 years ago, a little more actually, I believe, a lot of strange, what we might consider strange, things took place, like during marriages and birthdays and celebrations of any sort. But as I understand it, and I'm not able to quote any particular point in the scriptures, Herod's wife was offered a gift and asked what she wanted, and her reply, because he had already very foolishly, very much like a man today, promised whatever she wanted, and Herod, being a king, had pretty much all the wealth at his disposal, and he probably thought she was going to say, I want a palace, or, something to that effect, stereotyping her as a traditional woman. But what she demanded for her gift was John's head on a platter. And at that point, having promised, Herod had little recourse than to murder John and put his head on a platter. It's terrible. Now, John was at that time already in prison for these things he had been teaching, promoting Jesus the Christ as the Christ. And he had been doing that for a long time. He'd been foretelling that one will be coming after me that is greater than me, as we've discussed in John here. So, with that said, John was martyred. Now, Jesus was martyred as well, but I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't at least give some credit to Charlie Kirk, our very notable modern day martyr. It was an honor to die as a martyr, but as the quote of the day stated, which was Gandhi's quote, martyrdom is not something to lust after. It's, if it happens to you, it's great, but don't go trying to get killed for your faith. And let's look at the Webster's definition of martyrdom or martyr, because we know what it means basically, but excuse me, the Oxford English Dictionary, not Webster's. Noun, first definition, a person who is killed or made to suffer because of their religious or other beliefs. Secondly, a person who displays or exaggerates their discomfort or distress in order to obtain sympathy or admiration. So the second definition I find to be more of a facetious narcissist interpretation or definition of martyr. But it's also a verb, to kill or persecute someone because of their beliefs. Is that not what happened to Charlie Kirk? He was killed or made to suffer because of his religious beliefs and other beliefs. So I can confidently say he was martyred and is a martyr. We're just kind of freestyling at this point, if you will. Let's refer back to John 6. And there's just so much in here. This one chapter. Now, if you aren't a Christian and you're viewing this, first of all, I applaud your interest in something that is most certainly a Christian production, if you will. Sorry, I'm clearly getting sick. I feel like I'm running a fever and throat hurts. Here in Alabama, we don't deal with freezing temperatures, not at least down here in lower Alabama. Hurts to swallow. In any case. With all due respect, this has taken a lot of effort on my part today. I'm having to discipline myself, and I'm sorry if that comes across as self-promotion or applauding myself or conceitedness, but I don't feel physically well today. I feel great spiritually. That's one of the things we deal with as mortals. And I believe that it is uh, an indication of Christianity, or the way a Christian should live, is to force himself to do things that are uncomfortable, to discipline himself. And I've certainly fallen short time and time and time again. Uh, but I'll continue to get up and try again. If there's any subject anybody wants to posit, any thought experiment, any philosophical questions, all that is welcome here. Um, my views on Christianity probably differ from most people. That's why I don't necessarily do well or at a physical church. Uh, so a lot of times, if you ask the questions you want to know the answers to, you get branded as a blasphemer or something. But we are encouraged to question, and the Bible provides answers every single time. But they may not be very easy to find. That's where discernment and prayer comes in. In any case, the short for the day is posted. I apologize profusely for the difficulty I'm having in speaking, pain that I'm in. It's not my intention to come across somber and melancholy as I must appear, because I'm not unhappy or anything like that. I'm just having a hard time swallowing and such. Um, but thank you all for your support of God Hour. It's lately we've been getting more and more support, and I can't thank you all enough for helping me, validating what I'm doing and trying to do, and finding success where, I have had my doubts in the past. I'm kind of just lingering this broadcast on, hoping someone will bring something up they want to talk about. Because if I bring up a topic, it's going to kind of inherently be about me, and I don't. God Hour is not meant to be about me. It's meant to be about God. God Hour is my first hour of the day, which I give to God. There have been days where I've fallen short on that, of course. There's been days where I woke up late and had to be at work. Hello, welcome. With that being said, if nobody has anything such as let me preface this. We don't pray on camera. But if you have a prayer request, feel free to submit it either in the chat here or to the email admin@godhour.org. There's probably a way for me to put that Uh, I got to play around with this creation stuff. Once I get a day off, I think that's something I'm going to be doing. Not only investing in a microphone and adapting this thing to the iPad, but also uh, learning to use all the tools here and such. But I kind of feel that's more secular than spiritual, and I don't want to deviate from the MO of God Hour and godhour.org. So without further drawing out, God bless you all. Thank you for your support once again. Have a great day, a blessed day. And I know you're starting your weeks. And Mondays can be tough. This one tougher than most in my case, but it is what it is. I'll be seeing you all soon. Thank you once again, and until the morning.